My name is Daniel. This is the Wildflower Fire class. Reincarnation. The only way this means anything is if you embrace a much deeper relationship to incarnation itself. Incarnating only makes sense when you contemplate that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. You came here. You didn't start here. You won't end here. That's the beginning of understanding perspective on what's going on here. When I was in my teens, I used to make fun of this phenomenon. It was the kind of like teenage thing. It's like I made fun of it so much I had a crush on it. My biggest line was like, oh yeah, everybody's been Cleopatra. How is it that everybody was Cleopatra? I had a point, it's like a lot of people seemed to relate to the idea of having lived another lifetime as if they were always a prominent, crucial historical figure. And just because people misuse and misunderstand something that's very real doesn't mean it's not very present. There are definite reasons we incarnate in one lifetime. We forget everything and start as a little baby. Psychologically, the very experience of having an identity is crucially grounded in the sense of this is it. And there's real purpose to this. You can't embrace the true purpose to having a life in this way unless you get a little bit of perspective. So here's what we're going to do. Today, I'm going to give you a fairly brief perspective. Then, I'm going to share some of my memories with you, which, if you're present, can take you there. Now, as ever, I encourage you to get up, sit on the floor, do some yoga, do what you need to do during this time if you can. If sitting works, great, but take care of yourself. Remember your body, sense your spirit. If we're not doing that, we're not accomplishing anything. After I tell some stories, we're going to answer some questions, and then we'll do some readings following. I am headed towards plausibly separating this. So I do a time of questions and readings, and I'm going to produce more of this sort of class time on the theme. I've had a pretty poor computer, and producing longer videos has been tedious, but I just got a new one, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I'll get used to it. And maybe I'll have some higher quality versions of these videos for you. And we'll compress this class time down into questions and readings and maybe not spend 2 complete hours. Welcome. Hey, Sonil, thank you for being here. Danny. I'm not really here to argue with you. So, when you're coming into an incarnation on Earth, you gaze at something that's closer to a flower. I invite you to think of time as like a flower. Each petal is the shape, the space, the experience of a different phase. And within each phase, there are different rules of morality, energy, physics, the boundaries of what is expressed, what is acceptable, change. Now, there's a difference between the moral boundaries that are asserted, the moral boundaries that a civilization has attempted to create, and the reality of what is actually happening. What that means is there are certain kinds of war which were put into certain phases of human history, and they were there for a reason. And when you had certain kinds of karma that are supposed to fit into these styles that incarnate into that time, there are certain kinds of intimacy, there are certain kinds of relationships to being in a body. So there are phases that are almost entirely designed to focus you in a particular way, on a form of language, on the formation of the experience of relating to the breeze and the air. This era is very different. The boundaries are much more open, partly because many more people are incarnating during this time. And many of the people incarnating during this time are only incarnating during this time. They come to Earth and they're plopping into this phase. This is more like the crossroads. This is more like the time that is much briefer, where you can change from one phase of reality to another and simply move on. Going deeper is something that far fewer souls do. When you go deeper, you participate in kind of a conference with guardian angels that help determine where you're going to be. And thinking of it in a linear form is not entirely appropriate. What you're really doing is you're saying, I need to incarnate in the 1500s to explore this. I need to incarnate in 1000 BC to explore this. I need to incarnate in 10,000 BC to explore this. And yes, I'm going to use the standard terminology for time. Once you map out that this is your experience, that you're going to need to have this range of incarnations, you kind of begin them all. Really. They're sort of happening together, and the way in which you live through one influences another. This is possible fundamentally because the biggest thing that's happening is energy exchange. The energy exchange between your lifetimes ends up balancing in a new form. That new form is something that happens next. Next, from this perspective, this is a crossroads time. This is a time when you're bringing together much of the experience that you've had in other lifetimes and transitioning into an entirely different range of reality. And in order to get there well, you need to be open to remembering. Think about remembering. Member is the body. Remember, to put back together. You are called to put back together parts of your relationship to different lifetimes. The act of doing this takes your psyche beyond the limits of this lifetime, and that alone can be extraordinarily traumatizing. You have to navigate through certain fundamental and very uncomfortable boundaries. For instance, if you've always identified as a good person who would never be violent, it's likely you're going to have to recognize yourself violent in another lifetime. In fact, you're going to have to recognize yourself as someone who worked through that. And part of the reason you have a better command over your emotions and your focus and your intentions, part of the reason you can channel yourself more consciously now is because you actually lived and failed in other forms at other times, plausibly much worse than the people around you who are more, perhaps volatile by your standards today. When you have psychologically depended in some form on identifying someone else as the bad guy, as evil, it can be daunting to come to terms with yourself as someone who's raped, killed. Concurrently, it can be pretty daunting coming to terms with yourself as someone who has been victimized on some of the deepest levels. And as you begin to wake up to these memories, you edge in. So you get pieces of consciousness, you get part of the experience of being someone who's been through extraordinary pain, of being the person who has been deeply rageful and even lacked the moral boundaries to contain that. When you access this desire, when you access this pain, if you suddenly say, no, that's not me, that's someone else, you're immediately going to sever your ability to connect beyond this lifetime. You have to own it and take responsibility in a way that really humbles you into the now. And if that makes your life worse, you need to get help. I can't tell you enough. You need to get help if these feelings overwhelm you, because it is extremely difficult to balance them. And if you don't act to, your life will get much worse, because you're going to exist as a kind of bifurcated, shattered psyche with parts of different selves right here, right now. In my experience, the act of integrating this into your current self, into your current understanding of who you are, totally transforms it. Totally. It's not just that it gets better, it's that it gets much, much better. You begin to lack a whole range of fears that used to be inaccessible. So you had a normal life that began to get confusing as you touched in on the memories of being a different kind of person, and usually several different kinds of people. And then as you integrate that, you're no longer afraid of any of these boundaries. You know how to be present in all these different fields, and you won't fall victim to a wide range of forces that maybe got you before. You won't want to participate in a whole range of negative interactions. And you know how to say no to them much more effectively because you've lived it out. All of the different lifetimes and the different phases are like more little morality plays. They teach you how to embody and how to transcend a whole range of experiences and feelings. And once you transcended them, they can't pull you. They're no longer a siren's call. Allowing this deep transformation takes work, but it begins by allowing it. You have to be the one that agrees to let yourself be present with these wider feelings, that stops projecting them and suggesting that that's this person or that person, and begins the deep humility that actually holds much more compassion for people who are suffering in a wide range of ways. Welcome, Lini. Welcome, Hadi. So, I entered therapy at 25 with an EMDR therapist. She was a little Buddhist woman. And the fact that she was Buddhist somehow, it helped me to trust. It's like she knew how to hold space in an extreme that I didn't know how to be present in. I was comfortable with it. And for 5 years, I worked with her some. There was like phases of a couple months. Then I'd go away, take a break, and I'd come back to her when a new challenge would arise. After 5 years, I was engaging a deep level of trauma. I'd accessed pain from my childhood, and that had shook me so deeply that nothing made much sense anymore. And we worked through a lot of the main challenges to those experiences specifically. So I regressed. I went into my childhood experience and actually put a lot of it in its place, to the point where it's like it was settled. But I still had something else happening. And I sort of experienced it like someone was playing a song that was different than the song I was listening to. And like this song would sort of interrupt. It would bother me, sort of playing on the fringes of my consciousness. So we followed it. And EMDR is an extraordinary therapy that enables you to follow different divergent feelings and help find them a place, help weave them in. But we couldn't get there. There was nothing there. There was no memory. There was no presence in my life that made sense of what was going on. And I could still hear her voice looking at me one day saying, Daniel, I think that we are dealing with a past life experience. I had no way to integrate it. Like, she hadn't told me that she did such work. And I had to both try to come to terms with the act of integrating this other range of feelings, but the very idea that this was possible, that this might be true, was something that I had to learn to pass through, pass beyond. And the thing about going into a regression is you can't just flirt with it. You can't just say, oh, that's something that's neat, that's interesting. You have to be deeply present. What's up with you? Well, we did it. I had the vivid and deeply present experience of living in a fairly like Stone Age tribe on Minorca. I knew that's where it was. It's an island off the coast of Spain. I knew, somehow I just knew that's where it was. I knew the feelings. I had a sense of the personalities that I was surrounded by. I had a sense that some of them were the same people that I knew. And I was also aware that I might be making that up. And true to form, I had the sense that they sacrificed. They sacrificed people. It was a thing they did. And I volunteered to be sacrificed to try to circumvent their ritual. And they did it. And I distinctly remember dying and anticipating some kind of like celebration. Like, good for you. You did this extraordinary moral thing. Nothing. There was nothing. It was blank. It was like, okay, that was over. There was no welcome. There was no congratulations. There was no anything. And I had the extraordinary sense that I didn't understand nearly as much as I thought I knew. This kind of cracked things. It was terrifying. I went for several years with just a very open psyche. And I began to feel feelings that really, haunted me. I'd be going through a normal life and I just had these feelings of, it's like an entirely different personality. And there was a real desire in me to say, this is someone else. And make no mistake, it's perfectly possible to be essentially haunted by someone else, by another spirit. But there was a difference. And my attempts to project, my attempts to say this is elsewhere, this is someone else, didn't work. And I eventually went back years later to the same therapist. And she led me through another regression. And I integrated sort of an eccentric English sort of philosopher, thinker, angry, confused, trying to be extreme and then unsettling everyone around, not doing very well at growing a garden, dominant and angry with my wife. I can still remember seeing her when she died, wailing. I just want to see your face one more time. And after she died, my life fell apart. I was sort of useless. Couldn't think clearly, couldn't act clearly. No one could come near me. I was Native American. I lived in this land before white people came. The air taught me what was happening. I looked forward to seasonal changes like so far beyond anything I anticipate in this lifetime. It's joyful, very joyful, present, swimming. Ah, swimming in the river. There were not many fights then, not in that life. It's good. It's good. I lived in Egypt. Amazingly developed. 4,000 years ago. But the society is, I still can't quite get into it because it's so much more similar than I would have thought. Dinner parties and accountants and lawyers and color everywhere. There was a woman. Oh, I didn't really get what I wanted much. I was well loved, but I kept losing what I wanted. Like everything I tried to make got tempered more. I always got a different version and I was rarely satisfied. But it was fun. There's a sense of vibrancy, just an extraordinary sense of vibrancy. I was Jewish in the University of Alexandria library, as they call it. I loved it like nothing I've known. I can feel the agony of the loss of that place every time I think about it. I just don't want to do that right now. I was with Ashoka in India. If you don't know who that is, look him up. Ashoka. Fucking phenomenal. Most amazing sense of hope. Again, just like incredibly developed. Civilization, this term, so fragile because it was so real. It was so effective. It can fall apart so much more easily than we think. It could also be so much more beautiful. I loved walking the roads. I loved feeling safe when I walked the roads. I was good, really good at knowing when danger was around. I used my sword a lot. People were scared of me in a way I liked. Got mixed up in lovers' quarrels too much. That's sad. Taints the beauty of it. I lived 4 lifetimes in Mohenjo-daro, the Saraswati. I keep trying to get into them. I made breakthroughs that I was just completely convinced mattered. It's this theme, like people liked it. It was intense, but it never kind of really got as far as I expected, I anticipated. And I kept talking with Gaia. Certainly didn't call her that. What did I can't remember the names. She kept explaining, it's for another time. It's for another time. I was pushing past boundaries and it was too uncomfortable. She kept encouraging me towards a patience that I'm like, oh my God, I still need it now. There were more, but that's going to be enough for now. Mine. Several other Native American tribes. I never incarnated in China or Japan. Don't know why. I ask a lot and I don't get nearly as many answers as I want, but there's this general theme of like, be aware. You wake up forces with such work that when you can't integrate it yet, it opens so many other challenges. And the consequences are severe. There are reasons we incarnate and identify within one lifetime. And when you start to change that, it's crucial that you ask for help a lot. And when you don't have human figures to ask for help from, you've got to find some angels who will help you. Haha. Oh, thank you. That was kind of intense. Just catching up on these comments here, guys. Wow. This is it. This is it. You start to get these hooks and you just know. If you question it too much, it's like drawing over. Thank you. Thank you, Maxime. If you question some of these things too much, it's like drawing over a painting. When you make an inaccurate conclusion, you don't get a refutation right away. So if you, like for instance, if you bumped into someone else's psyche in your mind and you struggled with it and you started saying, maybe that's me from another lifetime, you're rarely going to get a contradiction right away. It's not like some teacher will come in and say, no, you're wrong. What happens is later, when you're doing something else, and usually when you're in a better space, like when you're calm, out of nowhere, you'll get a thing that says, no, that's actually not true. It'll be at a time when you're more willing to accept it and remember it. So it's absolutely important to be skeptical, because the simple fact that other lifetimes exist and that you most likely have lived other lifetimes doesn't mean that everything that you think is another lifetime actually is. It's a very delicate kind of like uncovering an archaeological dig. Have you ever seen work at an archaeological dig? They go so carefully. They take so long because they don't want to miss anything. There's so many important clues. So you just chip away. And when something really deeply reveals itself to you, you cherish it. Now, look, it is always possible to misunderstand. Like, imagine, one of the biggest things for me was I went through a phase where I thought I was Charlemagne. I lived during the time of Charlemagne and I was an administrator. Okay. But the act of remembering Charlemagne really triggered me deeply. So when my mind started to embrace, I am Charlemagne, this is when I was much younger, there was something true about it. It was getting me closer to the truth. And as a result, you have to kind of like take the strong impulses seriously, but also be carefully, gently, reverently skeptical. Just allowing space to uncover the truth and allowing space for your initial understandings to change. And as you do, certain things become solid. I've been violent in ways that are terrifying. I vividly remembered being viciously raped and killed. And I most definitely did not want to believe that that was me. So I went through years of questioning it. But the fact is, something settles in a deep way that it's just like the undercurrents of my reality confirm. And they're patient. They're like, just accept what's real. Because in accepting the range of experiences that are real, you get these other experiences. It took me a long time to remember the beauty of enjoying living on that river, of loving working in Egypt. It took me a long, that's not what came first. The most dramatic and painful times came first. And again, it was very tempting to imagine the most dramatic and painful times as someone else. I lived in Ireland. I was violent. I started fights and I got kicked out. I distinctly remember being kicked out of my community. I had to leave. And I remembered it like the pain of, like I wrote a song. It took until I wrote a song to come to terms with it. Years. It took me years. It took me years to be at peace. And when I integrate these feelings and this allowance of what I am, I'm here. I'm here. And one of the interesting things about being here that I can perhaps explain to you and might explain me to you, because God Almighty, some of you might know me from another life, which is why you're curious and drawn. But I was a teacher, and I misused my power. I misused my power. I was well loved, and I died decently loved. But by the end, people were a little tired of me. It wasn't misused on a level where people turned on me and hated me as a community, but I can remember myself. I can remember knowing that I didn't use my power well. I misused it sexually. I took too much money when I wasn't really the medicine people needed. And part of my karma in this lifetime has been to be much slower, much more careful, much more giving, and much more aware of the multiple levels of challenges that exist when trying to teach people things like this. And I've had to suffer through watching, all sorts of different kinds of people succeed and thrive, particularly on the internet. Being like, I knew that stuff when I was 25. Why are they the one that's getting all this? I've had to totally humble myself to the realization that I've got karma in this space. I've got karma that it's beautiful that I heal. And at the end of the day, I get to hold a space that I actually love much more. I love this. I love this. I love this. This is my space now, my little studio. Like, I love this space. I love coming here. I love sharing it with you the way I do. I love generating the connections and the cherished relationships that are starting to emerge this way. I love the distance and the space of the online medium and the sense that you're from all over the world. It's beautiful. It's such a gift. So at the end of the day, allowing these forces to teach you what your personal story is such a gift, such a gift. It's a lot of work. Darn it. Do you have questions about what I've shared so far? Yeah, Maxime, like, there should be a name for this, and maybe someone has named it, but the experience of having these side feelings that kind of, they're incursions into your life, and then finally placing them. It's like click. It's like a puzzle clicking into place. Darn it, I'm having so much trouble with this damn thing. It's like a puzzle clicking into place. And when you get it right, there's just a calm, a focus that takes you beyond who you used to be. It's awesome. And it's strong enough that it's fairly easy to trust and remember once it happens. Now, you can absolutely question it, and people do, but there's a knowingness, like that was me. And it removes so much drama from your life. And in fact, you don't get harassed nearly as much afterwards. And it's a strong thing because you don't want to remember everything. It drive you bonkers. You can't spend all your time elsewhere. You're supposed to be here. The idea is to live a great life here with the accumulation of experience that you've had from your past. But if you can't incorporate the lessons from the past, you're miserable now. So it's this balance that's so worth it. It's so worth it. And it has this click. There's an anxiety that's there that really, really changes once you stop fighting. The anxiety it's not a thing. It's your resistance to the truth. It's your resistance to the memory that creates a constant shaking in your psyche in the now. And when you accept it and allow it, there is a form, there's a course, there's an arc to the experience of remembering that will take, you'll embrace what you need. It's being orchestrated from beyond this time. Okay. Your higher self and your guardian angels are trying to get you to remember enough so that you learn and incorporate the lessons and don't make the same mistakes. And in fact, are able to build on the strengths of being this greater person, this person beyond who you knew yourself to be. It's not endless. So don't try to take too much charge. Work with what you're given and allow yourself to find peace and rest, because your higher self and your guardian angels are orchestrating this. They're not going to give you more than you can handle, but you can often handle more than you think you can. Welcome, Lucas. Thanks for being here, man. I'm reading your message, Haldi. Well, I've worked with 3 actual past life regressionists. I needed a human when the experience began. And obviously people could misuse this, but there are some professional trainings, and I'll give a link beneath this description to a school that I trust. The dynamics of a good regressionist are pretty consistent. There's a knowledge to it out there. It's not like millions and millions of people have done it, but the people who do it and focus on it, there's an integrity that works. And I personally needed some human guides to help me be present enough to reach. Now I've connected deeply enough with my own higher self, as people say it, my soul. And I just don't need that. I can go there. And so it hasn't occurred to me for quite a while, but I needed help. Even after I was able to do this on my own, I worked with a regressionist because of the worst. Like I was edging in on the worst victimization that I experienced, that I briefly referred to, and I needed help. It was too painful to face alone. So, I can't say enough. So much of this work, so much of spiritual work is you got to admit when you need help. So many of you are probably lone wolves on some level, the only one around you who's exploring these extremes. And it takes that courage. It takes that independence to access many of these parts of reality and these parts of yourself. But then it's really important to bring your courage and your daring exploration into a space where you learn how to trust yourself to determine who can you trust. Because if you don't ask for help from not just one person, I'm not saying I'm going to solve all this for you. You need a team over the course of your life for sure. You need a team of people who you can let them hold space for you as you reveal these things, as you open these things. And some of the best in my experience, they're holding space and I'm the one remembering. They were prodding me with questions and guiding me, and they could tell when I was off, and they could even get inspirations. Like I remember one said, there's a ring. And I remembered a ring, and then the ring became a pivotal point that helped me remember. And another said, your ankle, what happened to your ankle? But for the most part, it was me remembering. So that empowerment stayed with me and informs, how much I have to share now. But I only got there by trusting other people who were good at what they do, and my heart knew I could trust them. Hey, 3-3. I have not. I've never heard it. QHHT. I'd love it if you'd put a link in a comment, not in the chat, but in a comment underneath, so people could look. And I'll certainly explore it myself. Good evening, Lana. Where is it evening? Where are you? I'd love to know. Hey, incidentally, I'll do this now. I don't know how well it'll work, but say where you're from. Type in where you're from. I'd like to have a sense of like what range of people are here. Okay. What else needs to be said about this? Netherlands. Oh, welcome. Thank you for being here. Look at this. It's hilarious. I'm telling you, Americans still like me. I spent 10 freaking years traveling around this country. I've lived in so many different states, so many of the high points. And at the end of the day, challenge this country to try to be a better place in a way that it doesn't always want to be challenged. Let me tell you, please, it's going to be good. I imagine to some extent you're aware, but things suck here right now. It's scary as hell. But I do live through a sense that karmically, as a culture, we deserve it. Like America has pushed people around for so long, and it's in the divine story. The chickens are coming home to roost, all these guys to other countries to fight. People don't address that the time-old human thing is that a big part of the reason wars happen is that societies don't know what to do with their aggressive young men, and times of terrible bar fights, and like all of a sudden, the aggression boils over and somehow there's a war and all these guys get sent away. And America has certainly been doing this for, quite a while. And chickens are coming home to roost, and it's terrifying and painful. And I don't think there's any interest the world has in us being too unstable. We need leadership. We need to change. But in order to get there, we have to face this within this culture, because we have to stop being bullies. It's pretty deeply crucial, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's what this is time for. That's what this time is for. Hey, beautiful. It's awesome. I love this rage. I love it. Thank you for being here, you all. It's a wonderful gift to my life that I'm finally teaching in this way. And let me tell you, I've gone through years of working in different communities. And what happens is, like, I make some degree of a big impression or splash, and I get attention. And I take it. My only understanding has been that I always took it past the boundaries they wanted. So they wanted me to fit in a slightly more contained, version of being a spiritual or yoga teacher or something. And I was like, yeah, but you can't do that if you don't do this. And the end result was that people are just like, too much. And the YouTube is my salvation. Like YouTube is the best. It's the answer to this because it's such a beautiful dynamic of I can find the people wherever you are in the world that fit into what I have to share that are ready for it. But also it gives a great amount of distance. So, you can be here or you can tune out and come back later, whatever it's best for you. And that dynamic is good for all of us. I'm just so thrilled to have you here. Thanks for participating. Yep, Lucas. Yep. I don't know. I don't know my South Node. I have a basic relationship to astrology. I did exchanges with an astrologer for a while who gave me interpretations of all these things. I think my North Node, something is whatever. I have a crucial. There's an asteroid just past Saturn, between Saturn and I believe it's between Saturn and Uranus, that it indicates that I often go against the flow. Like I bring up things that my community doesn't want to face, which is certainly par for my personality. I'm an Aries, Sagittarius, my sun sign, moon sign, and ascendant. Yes, Shirhad. Thank you, Liddy. Yeah, so that's my most recent astrological session basically indicated like she was really wanted me to know that my Chiron is, helps me explain why I'm constantly like trying to bring up the things that people don't really want to face, that kind of stuff. All right. Any more questions about what I've shared so far, past life issues, integrating them, what you might need to do to make that possible, just a deeper understanding of what I've shared, anything involved? And I'm taking breath. I love this frog and turtle. So if you certainly can add questions about any of this if you'd like to. I'm going to do just a little bit of not business stuff, but like updates about what I'm going through, where this channel's going to. And then we'll just move into general questions and then readings. You can certainly bring up the reincarnation stuff or incarnation stuff later. I have been stuck for a little while. I haven't posted a new produced video because my computer is overloaded. I've filled it with downloaded videos and everything like this, and I keep deleting stuff, but it's not enough, and it's so slow, it crashes constantly. So it's been really tough producing stuff. And as a result, I had too much difficulty to do a yoga class yesterday. I still haven't fully determined how I'm going to do this class. I might produce it. I really want to lead a weekly guided session that chakra yoga that integrates movement, yoga, and then helping you determine what you need to focus on. It's awesome in person, and I'm going to have to learn how to do it from a distance, but I've been resisting in a way that I've just got to put aside and forge forward. So next week there will be something, I promise, and I'll improve it over time. And I would so appreciate your feedback and your investment. To the extent you try this out, I really think it's going to bless you. You can accomplish so much this way. One of my most prominent teachers, Anna Forrest, really just cracked me open. One day in a training, we took turns having someone in the middle of a circle of 30, 40 people, and she'd choose what pose to put you in and then choose someone else to help you. And so we were modeling how to help students on our own. And she put me in the middle and she just had me do a forward bend, just a seated forward bend. And I was completely locked. I just couldn't get forward. And she had the person who was working on me put her hand on my lower back and stay there. And I was making no progress. I was totally locked. And the woman was like, do I have to keep doing this? Like, this isn't doing anything. And she's like, stay. And I relaxed into it, and it channeled energy through my second chakra from the back, so where pain was locked in my second chakra, and I started screaming and crying. And it was so intense that I just remember several women left the room, and one woman came back saying, I saw colors everywhere. Like it was primal screaming from within me. And unbelievable change to my life. People were crying all over the room, and I was just sobbing, sobbing. And I went to the side, and another woman held me, and I was sobbing and sobbing. And I calmed down, and another woman was screaming at the teacher, I don't want to have to see that. I don't want to have to see that. And Anna Forrest just looked at her. I don't know if you know of her, but I encourage you to look her up on YouTube. She's an amazing teacher. She just looked at the woman and said, it's your job. And then she looked at me and she held my hand. She said, is that what you needed? And I, in the deepest, strongest maturity, I just remember looking at her and saying, yes. And she said, good. That was it. She respected me as someone who knew what I needed on a certain level, and I put myself in her hands, and she helped unlock something that was energetic. I couldn't heal that just by doing yoga. And there are lots of things that you all carry that you think are physical blocks. Your shoulders are tight, your hips are stiff, whatever. Those are common. It's not primarily physical. And when the problem's not primarily physical, you can't do shit by repeating and repeating and repeating the physical work. The only thing that'll happen is you're going to bring to the surface problems that are latent energetically, but you need to transition. You need to learn to recognize when your physical body is stiff because the energy in that space is gripping you. That energy is gripping you because you're not at peace with certain forces, certain memories, certain desires. And when you're not at peace with those forces, it's like someone won't stop playing a song and you're trying to move on and play a different song. So your work is to learn to recognize and navigate between mind, body, and spirit. It's in there, like everybody's being taught mind, body, and spirit, but we need to go a little deeper on what that means tangibly and to understand, like in my experience, there's no way to teach yoga without teaching energy work, not effectively. You can't get past a certain point. And it's not an extreme. Like people come up against these boundaries constantly and they just keep doing the same stuff, but they don't make nearly enough progress because they don't know how to make this transition to say, wait a second, my hips are locking up in the same way every time. I've done all this work. It's just going back to the same stuck space. You must get in there and look at the energy and let the energy reveal the emotions. It's almost always trapped emotions related to a theme that you probably don't want to deal with, but you got to deal with in order to be well. So really, I love the spiritual themes. I love the spiritual lectures and such. But if you don't do the work with your physical body to navigate between these things and integrate it, you're never going to get far enough to live an awesome life. So that's my pitch for now. And I'll be doing stuff every Monday on that theme. Anna Forrest, there you go. She saved my ass. Very, very wonderful. Okay, Lucas, I've got to read this. I guess I just have. There you go. So look, it's dicey. Oh, wait a second. I'm missing several things. Wow, I missed a lot. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's Maxime, I mean, so much was lost then. And every time I question it, this is about the Library of Alexandria. Oh, what? Why? I'm going backwards. Darn it. There's so much more questions. This is great. Okay. Lana, more about Thoth is That's so much. I mean, have you watched the 20 channeled ones? There's a whole playlist, and I strongly encourage you. That's what he wants you to know. If you want to know more beyond that, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth give an extraordinary overview of who he is. And that's he hasn't asked me to share that, but it's there and it's real. He taught me a lot of what was in there before I knew they existed in a way that was beautifully confirming. And I can't encourage you enough to take a look at the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. In fact, you can listen to it again and again and again, and it tunes you in. It tunes you in. It's amazing. There's a 2.5 hour more written versions. There are several on YouTube, and they're good. I mean, they're all the same, but you can choose who reads it, who you like better. So the library, look, they were one of the first versions on this scale to gather information, and it was like the invention of university on that level. It was amazing. It was amazing, and the burning, as I asked repeatedly, had to happen. It was a way of letting go of the past. And they needed to at that point. But I can feel the agony of it because the beauty of its creation and the several hundred years of its existence, I was a part of it. I was a part of it. And, it remains one of the most amazing aspects of life on Earth, in my opinion, is to study and learn and know about other cultures in this way, but to be there when that entire dynamic was like bringing people into a new level of consciousness. I still have trouble, as I demonstrated, I still have trouble being there because the pain is so deep. And you would probably, tune in. You might have been there too. I lived there. Lana, I'm going to do readings soon, and so that's when I will answer that. How do I advise you? Lucas, so here's the thing, the mind body spirit integration, you can get a connection to a physical sensation, a spiritual sensation, or emotional, which can also manifest as a thought. I really encourage you to think of thoughts and feelings together. They aren't the same, but they are interrelated in a way that makes it appropriate to say mind, body, and spirit, and treat mind as with emotion. When you get a sense of sadness, what you need to do is learn to meditate on that sense. And you'll lose it. You will probably lose it. The second you lose it, you want to shift your attention and say, what do I feel? You scan your body and you try to identify what you're feeling, and that's going to correlate you to what is trapping this lost sadness. So then you work on that, and you work on it until you can get back to the sadness. And until you get back, just assume that the work you're doing is good. It's healthy. It's what you need to do. And the best way I know how to do that is to work with the chakras. So watch the Introducing the 12 Chakras video and correlate where's the feeling you feel. Draw the circle around your body. This is always, like, I'll repeat this endlessly. You identify where a feeling is, draw a horizontal circle around your body, relate it to the nearest chakra, and then work on that. Work on that theme, write about it, think about it, talk about it. If you don't make progress, do yoga that works with these places. And I just give you several sequences that help you focus attention on different areas. So the shoulders have a pose, and the standing flower and the grounding flower. So do the poses that accentuate feeling in that area. That'll bring up the thoughts. Be with the thoughts until you unlock the feeling. And when you unlock the feeling, it's usually, trapped anger or sadness or fear, and you release it, then you know yourself. Then you know yourself differently, and you won't be haunted. It's work. And I'm absolutely here. This is what I most want to be present to help people with. So work on it. Come back next week and tell me what you've done and tell me what progress you've made, because the experience of sharing how you're learning to relate to this progress and experience and healing helps other people too. So this is the work. Thank you, Lindy. Yay. And I can't say enough. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Lucas. That's it, man. I appreciate it. And you've got it. It's like you have to presume that whenever you step it up, whenever you step into yourself and you become stronger and you're channeling more love, more passion, more life force, it's going to disturb everything else. So completely unrelated themes in your life will kind of be annoyed. It'll annoy other people in your relationships, but it'll even annoy you. And so you've had things that are working, and when you unsettle things by accessing some deep past life feeling, or even just a deep repressed feeling from your childhood, the themes that worked are going to bristle and they're going to resist. So you have to work on them together. And ultimately, that might seem frustrating because it's like, well, this was working. Why do I have to unsettle it? And you have to keep trusting that you will be stronger. Now, if you look at the Reclaim Wasted Energy video, I can't say enough. It's so important that we are all wasting energy by holding down different aspects of ourself that are unpleasant. When you address it, when you get in there and release intensity and bring it into your consciousness and deal with it, it unsettles these other things, but ultimately you become stronger. So it's worth it. Then you recreate yourself and you find that you can transcend. And almost always, I promise you, people, you are not dreaming big enough. Big doesn't necessarily mean numbers, more money or more people, although it might. But big means fullness of life. Your vision of what you'd be happy with is probably not nearly as fleshed out, as broad, as vibrant as you can be. So when you do this healing work, it exposes you to dreams that take you beyond what you've known as you, take you beyond what you've known as possible. And if you go, no, I don't need that, the process actually breaks down. Like you need it. Believe me, you need to go with the vibrancy that can express the fullness of you. And so this is it's an art. It's an art of living, that you expand your ability to dream and then you step into those dreams. And please, certainly restrain, don't work on numbers. I just need $1 million or whatever. Do that a little, but I don't mean more just based in number. I mean more based in fullness of appreciating your family, of appreciating your day to day, of appreciating a sip of a beautiful drink, of getting out more, of having a much broader impact on the people you love, on living fully. You have to dream big on living fully. And chances are you're being modest on what you ask for of the world, and your own spirit is telling you to go deeper. Yes, the only way out is through. Oh, beautiful. Certainly. Pythagoras, I started with the Greeks. I was an ancient political theory major. So I studied Aristotle and Plato a lot. And Pythagoras, he was fascinating. He used to have essentially a cult, and people would join it, and they had to be silent. They had to be completely quiet for years until they understood the deep importance of three. And this is it. You can engage these three levels of you, and they create the dimensionality to self that allows you to heal. There are more levels. You could delineate this further. Lots of people do it, but I find it to be counterproductive. Just working with this is not just enough, it's the most effective way to integrate yourself. And that's why it was introduced to us in yoga, mind, body, spirit. My first yoga classes were tapes, Radhi tapes. And they just said, mind, body, spirit. Now, you didn't say anything else about mind, body, and spirit, but it was just getting that into us. And it's all over, the new agey holistic world, mind, body, spirit. This is why. Yes, exactly like Pythagoras. It's the revelations that he first touched on. The only way out is through. Well, I pray that's a wonderful and good thing, Liddy. I'm glad to play this role with you. I love it. This is the work I love. Yes, we're moving a little more snappily today. Any more questions? And then I'm going to move on to readings. Something I wanted to share. I woke up in the night, meditated, 222. It's frequent for me. And I had a sense that you all were pulling me back from something that I was going for, and that it was right. Like I've been pushing in the wrong way, and I need to settle into a new phase, a new level, a new balance. So I was pissed. I don't know if any of you are conscious on a level that knows about this interaction or anything, but I was bad apparently, and I'm sorry, like for real. I'm learning, and I appreciate your love and your respect and trust. Oh, Dita, so glad. I'm so glad you're here. Wow. So Om. I think the sacredness of relating with death is that through death, we're reminded of the greater truth, greater reality. And so certainly a big part of my early learning was relating to death, connecting with ghosts, being the one in my friend group who was willing to say it's real and keep exploring it. And, everybody else wanted to hear the stories a little, but I did it more. And the concern there is that there's so much, and there's so many lost spaces, and so many people don't relate to death in a healthy way that it's easy to get hung up, caught up, entangled with unhealthy relationships with death itself. Several years ago, I was doing sessions on a woman who was dying, and she was tortured by the sense of trying to stay alive. She had stayed alive for quite a while with multiple levels of sickness. And I stayed with her, and I really prayed in a way like I was going to help her live if she really wanted it. And she ultimately decided that she didn't. And when she died, I died. Like I was there. Like a part of me died too. And I actually busted my knee, which I've mentioned. And it was the launch of this channel, really. I mean, I'd started it, but I wasn't really intending to take it seriously. I was just going to post some stuff here. But I busted my knee, and I had fevers for a month and a half, and I lived in death. I was at the edge of life and death. And I saw so much that I didn't want to see. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. I couldn't focus. I couldn't do anything productive. I couldn't read. Couldn't do yoga. And it just broke me. And it basically forced me to ask a question like, what am I living for? What's my purpose? I've still remained too addicted to finding anything that sort of brought me beyond the limits of what I was used to, the limits of normal. It's called spiritual bypassing. I was using spirituality as a way to avoid reality way too much as a normal part of my life. And as a result, life kind of killed me. A deep part of me died and said, what do you want? Do you really want to hang out in these extreme deathly spaces? And I didn't. And so I made a series of commitments, one of which was to do yoga for the rest of my life. I had been resisting yoga. I was having a rebellious phase against yoga, and it wasn't good for me because it was the medicine for a lot of my pain. So I committed to doing yoga for the rest of my life, and I committed to teaching this way in this channel. And I don't mean that as a direct analogy to you, Om, but I just ask you, like, when you start to know things like who's going to die, and you start to tune in on this level, it's one of these spaces where it's like you might not be wanting what you're getting, but you're being called to be the kind of person that can handle this insight and presence and awareness. And that will likely, you want it on some level, but the breadth that is necessary to embrace it probably takes you beyond what you're comfortable with. And there is a settling. It's not endless. It looks endless. It's exciting that it looks endless, and it's terrifying that it looks endless, but it's not endless. There is a settling that you can find. It's likely well beyond what's normal for you, well beyond what's been normal for you and the people around you. And that itself is very difficult. The realigning friendships is probably the hardest part of all this, because some people just can't. They just can't, and they won't. They won't come with you. And praying for them to come with you isn't going to work. Now, likely as not, you can still have dinner parties with them, but you've got to be at peace. You can't be the one who's constantly wanting to talk about reincarnation at a dinner party where no one there really wants to deal with it. Or they all want to go, ha, 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 I was Cleopatra, or some BS, and then they want to walk away, because you're going to get hurt every time. You're going to feel lonely every time. You need to find other people, and I definitely want to take this to a level where we generate a stronger sense of community. I really do. Safe, loving, trusting community, where we can be present with each other in a way that lets you go back to your old friends and just have dinner with them and ask them about their life and care and love. Because every single journey you take into psychic extremes, every single layer of evolution you embrace within yourself brings you back to here. You chose to be here. You didn't choose to live on Saturn. You didn't choose to live on the moon. You didn't choose to stay dancing around the sun. You didn't choose to leave for another star. You chose to be here. And in choosing to be here, at that point, it was what you wanted most. Reaccessing that sense of why you chose this and what you wanted most about this it's the gift. It's the gift. Because then you can reappreciate everything about your day-to-day life, and all the spiritual evolution gets contained back into the body, and you get to really love visiting with an old friend, even if they can't touch these extremes. And you can be at peace with that, because you know there are other ways you have to share. So when you have, most of you probably have access to extreme spiritual gifts. My prayer is that I can teach in a way that helps you focus and organize your gifts, even helps you practice. I know a lot of you are healers and Reiki teachers, and those of you who aren't might want to consider becoming healers and Reiki teachers and yoga teachers. And then my greatest hope is that I can help you be better at that, help give you tools that enable you to take care of the people in your community who are ready for this stuff, and be at peace and love the people who aren't, and still be able to enjoy your life with them without being tortured by their lack of presence or by feeling lonely because you're the only one who understands. So 3-3, I see a lot. I have had difficulty for years, because when I practice in my community and I do sessions, I've had difficulty letting go of people. So I love doing this work online. I'm doing sessions weekly, many, that I get paid for, and that's always an option. I don't want to oversell or anything, but I'm available to give sessions to people, and I do a lot of sessions with people every week and help teach and coach. But the distance is ideal for me. I really appreciate the boundaries of this. When quarantine time comes down, I think I'll be more mature and more prepared. But my personal challenge has been how to intentionally limit what I see in other people. So I'm doing a much better job of asking very clear questions and getting answers to those questions and then letting go. So you see me do this, and that's always respectful. I do it with my mother, my wife, my son. It means I'm saying what's yours is yours, what's mine is mine, because I enter a presence where I feel your feelings. Like you'll often see me go through, tears in particular, because I make a prayer. How can I help this person most now? And I'm really focusing in a way that says, I don't want to wake up something that you don't need to face. So we're talking realistically, what are you ready to deal with today that will be most helpful and most influential? And once I do that, I'm right there. I feel your sadness. I recognize much of the resistance. I can see sequences. I can see trapped videos of, like, a visual of what trauma has been there in the past, and I see a relationship to it. It's a lot, and it's one of the biggest challenges of awakening on this level is that the the challenge isn't to learn more. The challenge is to restrain how capable you are, because using it in a way that's focused is everything. I need to live. I need to go on with my day. And no offense, but I don't want to be thinking about you all day long. Like, I want to be present with the sun. I want to enjoy when I have my yoga practice next. That's all by way of saying I see a lot. Um, and hopefully I'm sharing it. It's a blessing. So I hope that was helpful. 3-3. One conscious community indeed. Yes, Lenny. Yes, absolutely. And that trusting that is what makes it possible. Trusting that is what makes it possible, and not to, like, write fears on top of them. I think one of my earliest ways of drawing boundaries with people is, like, I would get hugely deep visions into someone else, and then I would spend a year being afraid of it, just like writing a confused story about it. And that was me learning. But basically, my biggest challenge was I was trying to take too much control, and control that wasn't really mine to take, and settling into this trust that I was awakened to the level of gifts that's right for me to share, that's scripted for me to share, that I participated in shaping this life before I was born, that said I was gonna reach to be able to be this person in this way. And there are limits to that. It's not actually all up to me. So there's a deep part of many humans that actually is pissed off that we don't have more control. But again and again and again, if you dive deep enough, you find you don't really want control over a lot of these things, because you don't have the perspective to have control of it. And accepting the scripting, accepting that even when it's not me who scripted it, when it's God, when it's the Gaian presence that helped make decisions for me that I couldn't make, that edited my prayers and made them something else, and to trust that, to accept that, is to really thrive and be able to embrace what you can do. And I'm blessed that this is the model for me. This is a great model, a great way of sharing for me, and I'm so glad that you all are here to be a part of it. Yes. Yay. All right. Well, let's get into reading time. Reading time. Um, Forgive me. I know someone asked much earlier. I believe it was you, Lana. But oh yeah. Can I have a reading? There we go. So first, I'm going to set a space. You can do this with me or just witness, but I'm making 3 sounds: E, A, O. I start with a vision of a sphere, and then that sphere encompasses me and the readings. E, A, O. May I bless the people I connect with in the way that is best for each of us today. May I extend myself in ways that are healthy for me and all involved. May we address the themes that are most ready to heal, to grow, to spring to life. And may we leave at rest that which is not ready to be touched, to be moved or awakened. Lana. This is very curious, um, but it is the answer I get, so I'm sticking with it. I have a sense that you're good at moving indirectly into what you need, that you live with a sense that you should be more direct, but no, you need to trust that you're really good at kind of like, I get a visual of you sort of moseying, like dancing into where you need to be sideways and enjoying it. And that you're good at this and that you need to be at peace with that and stop judging yourself for not being someone else. Stop putting pressure on yourself to do things differently because you know what works. Oh, yeah. And then you I mean, I think it's mom. That's usually a cop out to say it's parents, but there's a sense that that's come from external, that you've been judged for being the way you are and that you need to be able to say no to that with this and not be mad about it. Just stick to you. You be you. You do you. And really, this is the biggest change you can make. I know it might seem a little vague, but it really matters that you allow yourself to trust and respect your I get this moseying. I don't use this word moseying, but like you just kind of know how to get yourself to where you need to be and enjoy the roundabout path. You stop and have a picnic by the pond on the way. You stop and have a talk with a stranger. And by the time you get there, you're in great shape and you do a much better job than anyone expected you to. And they just need to chill if you were a little later than they thought you should be there. That's beautiful. That's funny. Incidentally, when I do these readings, please give me some confirmation. And if everybody else, if you could restrain from comments other than I want a reading, so that I can just find a comment from anyone I have read that says yes, that was on or not. Because if I'm off, I wanna know why. I want to take a deeper look and see where I messed up. Okay, Lucas. This is a funny day. Again, there's a different. Okay, you need to know that luck isn't luck. Tell me if this is true because this is so specific. I don't even think about luck, but you seem to be stuck in a sense that like you could be unlucky or you can be lucky. And really there are always conditions that set you up for that. Every day there's an energy that's ready to work and there are energies that are not. You need to broaden your relationship with each day to say what's going to work today. Tune in intuitively. What's going to work today? And don't try to make things work that aren't going to work. Now it might take a while, but you need to know, you need to aim for this because you seem to be in this like, oh, I'm unlucky, but you're making things worse for yourself rather than fixing the ways you're off, rather than tuning in to a more healthy approach. You're getting upset in a way that compounds the problems. Stop trying to force what isn't there. Tune into what is. This is shoulders stuff, okay? I mean, please, lungs. It's so often what people need, but lungs. It's about how you plan your day, how you tune in spiritually to planning what you're doing, what you're committed to. And a lot of times people are under pressure to do things that aren't really good for you. That are not really available. You have to do it because someone's paying you or there's a deadline, but you need to do your best even when you have to do stuff to realize that today is not going to be a good day for this, and this. So do the bare minimum and focus on what really will work. And then on the days when the grunt work or the writing of reports are there, get it done. It's not enough. You seem to think that saying no, sometimes you don't say no until you're angry. And because you're angry, you're associating that anger. This is a common challenge. I don't mean to belittle it, but you're saying no when you're angry. And because you're angry when you say no, you're feeling like bad. You're like, this is bad. This is a bad part of me. But the thing is, you needed to say no earlier. That's why you're angry. You waited too long. So when you invalidate yourself because you're like, well, I got angry, so that's a bad part of me, you're making it even worse. What you need to do is say, okay, I really wish I'd realized I was getting upset. I really wish I'd said no earlier when I could have said it with patience and given people a chance to make new decisions and given you a chance to not feel so drained. This is huge for you, man. It's huge. Please respect, like that voice that gets angry. At one point, it was just trying to tell you it needed to change. Try to learn to listen to it then. Let me know if that's accurate, because that's strong and clear for me. Om Dita. So, Lucas, which is weird because I don't use the word luck, so I don't know why that's came up. But maybe, what I'm seeing more of a visual of like things are on for you or things are off for you, and that you have a very either or relationship to this, where it's like to shift that into there's always something that's on. You need to retune to see what's available and stop trying to make things work that aren't there, that aren't available. So, Om. So, I have a sense that you know how to sort of bliss out in a depth that it's really extraordinary, and you have been overly focused on trying to share it. I don't think you should try to share it. I think you should use this as a safe place and be more intentional about don't try to be there too much. Be there when you need to. And then come back and be rejuvenated and really just sort of appreciate it. There will be a time to share this. This has been a bit of a theme for you, but this is a totally different vision I'm getting. There will be a time to share this, but not now. Right now, you need to accept the rejuvenation. I'm getting these kaleidoscopic visions, like just a beautiful colors. I don't know if that's something you see or just I'm seeing the energy of a place that you know how to be that's really beautiful. So I see it and I honor it, and I encourage you to cherish yourself in this way and just trust that when it's time to find ways to share more directly, it'll be there. It'll be obvious. Right now, you need to appreciate what you got because it's beautiful. The act of appreciating exists. It's in your heart, definite heart work. Your heart's in pain. Your heart's in pain. And I don't mean this like I'm not scolding you at all, but it's sort of like you need to appreciate what you have. You need to spend more time appreciating what does work because it used to not work. You used to be much worse off. Really, really cherish how far you've come. Cherish the healing that you've been through and rest in it. You're better off than you might remember. And you need to get that into here. Your heart doesn't know. Your heart doesn't know what your mind knows. That's what I see. Whew, that's deep. Howdy. I think I got this last week, but you care about me in a way I appreciate. It seems to me you're whatever your level of involvement in healing work is, you need to think about taking it to another level, because you're like really wanting to help. It looks to me like it's a strong, and it's not just about me, but I'm feeling it towards me. Like you're actually seeing some of my challenges, and in your light, I could be like, I can recognize them. Maybe you get super excited at that, and then it crashes a little. And I think patience is super, super important. I'm guys, I haven't emphasized this enough. I am patient. I'm really patient. And it's one of the biggest lessons of accessing other lifetimes, is that you begin to see things from this just absolutely extraordinary broad perspective. Patience works when you recognize that the beauty you see in the future as a dream is going to help you see a lot of other kinds of beauty every day. And the only reason it's taking longer than you want it to is because you're going to get something better. Your life will be better than you can envision. You just need to help give space for that to happen. And breathe it. It's your breath, yo. Look, this is really simple. Likely you're going to overlook it. When you get a beautiful feeling, breathe with it. Just breathe with it. Tune into the feeling and breathe. Get it into your body. Open your mouth sometimes. When it's particularly pronounced, do an open mouth breath. Think about your chin. I really encourage you, Haldi, to work with your chin. It's about surrendering into transformations that are beyond what you can expect. And an open mouth breath drinks in the beauty of a new spirit that you're ready to begin to embrace, and let it take some time to embody. Three. Wow. It looks like someone hit you. Like slapped you across the face. Did something bad happen this week? Recent? If it's not recent, it's a stuck, but I can't see past it yet. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Throat. You're telling people things that they don't want to hear in one way or another. And I actually discourage you from trying to tell people things that they're not ready for, unless it's really like about you. Are you seeing what's wrong with other people and then telling them about it? Because that's the sense I get. Man. Sometimes when you see something that's wounded in another person, and if they're not ready to be present with it, it's important to make a prayer. Like you see it and you turn it into a prayer. And sometimes that's as simple as, I pray that you get support with that from a love that you can trust. And actually disengage, learn to step around it. My sense 3-3 is you need to develop the skill of stepping around challenges. This is something I've said to others. I don't believe I've said it to you. I really encourage you to embrace it and cherish this opportunity to learn to let your psychic gifts not just be healing gifts, because more than half the time you're going to see problems with people who they aren't ready for your help, and they might never be ready for your help. So at that point, your psychic gift is a gift because it helps you navigate around them. It helps you avoid them. Use it. Use it that way and be thankful. Be thankful that you got it. And when you need to, make a prayer. I pray you get help with that when you're ready from a source you can trust. But I don't want to be burdened by it. And don't feel ashamed if you can recognize that it's not going to be healthy for you to poke it, to touch, to bring to life things that people aren't ready to deal with. Let me know if this is true, because it's really clear for me. Refilos. Beautiful name. Napo. All right. This is definitely, let me know if this is true. Are you like a comic? Like you make jokes a lot? I almost want you to tell me that before I go further, but here's what I get. Comedy is medicine. Humor is medicine. It's sacred. Like it's sacred on a depth that really matters. You can transmute pain with comedy. It can be overdone, but it's really, in order to tune in and use it well, it's important to treat yourself like a medicine person when you know how to make painful situations into humor, because at the very worst, it gives you a little space to make a better choice. It's not evil to see the humor in negative situations, but looks to be like maybe you've pissed some people off that way. Please tell me if this is true, because I don't know how I'm seeing all this otherwise. So keep some of your humor to yourself and recognize that when it is time, it could be so healthy. It's like, it's okay to have a joke within yourself. Again, I'm just getting this vision that like you're starting to laugh at very painful situations, and you feel bad about that, like it's evil. And it's not that it's evil, it's a mechanism to deal with it. You do still have to work on it. You do still have to go into pain, and you do still have to be present with compassion and let tears flow and pain flow when it's time. Allow these things to work together. Don't just you can overuse humor to escape pain. And that's not the right way. The right way is to let you get perspective that makes better choices and puts you in a position to trust healing. Sacral intimacy. You've distanced yourself from people with humor, it looks like. But it doesn't mean you've used it to distance yourself. That's what I'm getting. And changing that means breathing, being present, allowing the tears when it's time, and respecting that you have a sacred gift here. It's medicine. Pray to use it wisely. Yay, I'm just catching up. Sorry, guys. Okay, Maxime. Oh, wait a second. I want to finish with you 3-3. Not at all recently. I just see a slap. It's an older pattern, like you've really just forged through. It's like you've worn your heart on your sleeve. a sense that I'm doubling down on this, I know, but just a sense that you feel it as a failure when you see pain and you can't help it. And I'm just really encouraging you to trust that sometimes the best thing you can do is to see it and make a prayer for it and move around it. Maxine. So there's a sense of stepping into your value, um, appreciating that just your presence is actually a gift. And I think that you would not have trouble with this. Like, I don't think you're prone to arrogance, is my sense. So it's just encouraging you to trust that really just being around people, you're doing a lot of work and you're channeling some really cool spirit. So just being around people is often the gift they need. Looks to me like maybe you're trying too hard under certain circumstances, and I think that could be resolved by a deeper self-respect. Navel, the sense of yourself as someone who really, you're just, if you had an energetic vision of you, if you could see yourself, the energy you carry in relation to the energy of people around you, you're sparking people just by being near them. If you could watch it this way, it's like physics. And I think you'd have a better appreciation for yourself and just integrating it and being aware. Just be present, trust that what you need to say or do will be kind of obvious. Don't reach beyond that. Really be able to settle and appreciate the gift of you. This is not meant to be vague. Like, you're a gift. You're really already helping people just by being there, and you need to know it. You need to trust it, and it'll work better. Work with your navel. Breath of fire, broad stance. Stand tall, feel strong. And like it. Like yourself in this way. Rafilos, awesome. So I hope that insight was helpful. Yes, Lenny. Yes, you got it. Yes, yes. Yes, Rafilos, awesome. I appreciate this confirmation. So it's not an either or. I'll just double down on this. It's okay to feel the humor, but recognize first who can handle it. Second, when it's not appropriate, and you can just keep it to yourself, Don't use it as a way to distance yourself from intimacy, but at the same time, you can, if you can leave people who aren't able to take things more lightly. Step away. There you go. Excellent. And that's where, to be honest with you, that's where I was hoping you would get, that you might be hiding pain through laughter. And that's a misuse of a sacred gift. So it's okay to use it to find a little stability, but then go in and focus on the healing. Awesome, guys. Beautiful. If you have any questions about those, any of the readings, now's a good time, because I don't think I missed anyone. If I missed you, please say it again. Just going to center for a second. I've got something happening to my shoulder here. It's enough. I think I'm tired, actually. So I'm glad that's the end. And I'm glad you're here. This is really a good week, and I've been looking forward to sharing this for quite a while. You guys are awesome. This is a really beautiful dream. This is a really beautiful prayer. I feel the presence of the people who watch me frequently. I feel your trust and respect. Thank you. And I hope that this is all blessing you in a way that's, helping you in your community. So you be more you. It's so awesome for me to feel that I help people be better at being yourself. Yes. Okay, so Lucas, the lung chakra is about boundaries and plans. So when you are not drawing boundaries, meaning you're in a situation that isn't good for you and change it, or you're not saying no to some aspect of it, the tension builds up. And your lung chakra tells you that. So you need to use that as the ongoing sense that you're bearing a burden comes from the fact that you're taking too much tension. So you need to use that as an inspiration to say, I got to change my boundaries. Work with the lung chakra through the yoga and work through it through the themes. Watch the videos about it. I'm going to do this next year. I'm going to do full videos on each chakra. I just haven't been as good enough as a videographer to do what I wanted to create in my head. But even the introduction to the 12 chakras will give you some insight to work with, gives you some questions, gives you some themes. Work with it. Do the exercises here. It'll help you be ready to interrupt situations and draw better boundaries when you're in the middle. And that's the goal here, is to change your relationship to circumstances. So you're in a conversation, you're in a group, and you can interrupt and change things in a way you need to. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. I much appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to, I'm going to have a new computer, and hopefully I'm going to have some yoga videos produced on the new computer for next week. And I dearly encourage you to try them out. Much love be with you and your families.